Again, welcome back to hiking. We're in Ledyard, Connecticut, southern Connecticut. This is multiflora rose, Rosa multiflora. Here we got Lonicera, or Lonicera, purple Morowii, or Morrow's honeysuckle. It's an invasive bush honeysuckle. Same thing with the invasive Rosa multiflora. We got a type of grape, likely one of the native ones. This is all types of goldenrods. Grapes climbing over all the multiflora rose. And look, that's a dogwood right there. Possibly a gray dogwood. Gray dogwood. This is Cornus racemosa. Relatively uncommon. You typically find it in wetlands or in areas that are slightly more rich. So this is actually the first population I've found this far south. Cool stuff. Can't forget Oriental bittersweet right here. Celestris orbicalis. Another horrible invasive. And then right next to it, we got Onoclea sensibilis, or the sensitive fern. And here's what's left of it. They call it the sensitive fern because it dies pretty much right after the first frost. So frost touches this. You can see the slow succession of pasture edge. So the pasture used to go up to this rock wall here. And with time, as invasives encroach, and I don't want to say the farmer gets lazy, but pretty much he doesn't want to, he cuts the pasture. He doesn't cut the brush. And so with time, the edge effect, more or less, just kind of moves in. And so you basically get this kind of invasive thicket, and eventually you start getting little trees like maples moving in, and that's just the natural succession of a pasture as it gets smaller. Sometimes farmers will come back and clear this crap. Got Lindera benzoin, or the spice bush, typical more in richer wetlands. You don't really find it too much in acidic wetlands. Going on this red maple, also known as Acer rubrum, we have Toxidendron radicans, or the poison ivy. You can tell because of the furriness of its branch or vine or whatever. There's some more right there. So you can tell it in the winter. It's furry. About 30 steps into my hike. My truck is right there. And now I'm in a rich little lowland, so it's going to be a long day. I love these areas because they have so many cool mosses. Like here we have a climacium, or a tree moss. This is Caltha palustris. It's a little marigold with a yellow flower in spring. This is a cinnagrass, or a foul grass. Here we got Thudium delicatum, Slimpcocarpus foetitis, or the easier to say skunk cabbage. Multiflora rose takes over areas like these. Same thing with the honeysuckle. And we get so many different mosses, like this one I'm still figuring out, and that's the same. More climacium. This one I'm still figuring out. You get swamp aster, which is this one right here. This is a Symphia trichum. It's more cinna. There's likely packer in here too, so I'm going to keep exploring. It's also known as a skunk cabbage muck swamp. And these are highly diverse areas, if not one of the most diverse areas when you're walking around in these southern Connecticut woods. Their species density is ridiculous, mostly because of the abundant moisture. And like compared to the upland, like up there, there's probably like 50 more species down here. I'm not kidding. Like in the uplands, you get 30 to 50. Down here, you can get 50 to 100, I swear. GM canadense is a little white-flowered plant in the rose family. Here is Minium hornum, also known as the horn calcareous moss. It's not a moss, it's a little liverwort, and it's very common in wetlands like these, especially along rivers and creeks. It likes deep shade. Here we have a moss in the genus Dicranum, also known as a broom moss. Very common in both uplands and lowlands, but I'm pretty sure there's different species for each one. And look, there's more Thudium delicatum. Cynium corymbosum, or the high bush blueberry. The berries are delicious, and it has little yellow urn-shaped flowers. And I really like the bark. Typical blueberry family bark, kind of gnarly. Not too far from that cool liverwort I'm going to show you is Berberis thunbergii, the invasive Japanese barberry. I hate this crap. Here we have Palavicinia lyellii, or robinwort. It's a little tiny liverwort. Look at that. It's a cute little thing, pretty common, and it's the only plant in the genus Palavicinia in the area, so it's pretty easy to get to species. And somewhere, I was having the most difficult time trying to get a picture of this with my I have like this little attachment from my S23. That's what I'm shooting on, and I was having the most difficult time get like macro shots with a little attachment. Here's another cool liverwort. I don't know the species yet, but it'll be on my iNaturalist, which is Jimbo 225. It's a neat one. This one I see here and there. It's common in swamps. But liverworts are kind of difficult to ID because you need to like freaking grab a piece and then put it under a microscope and like count the cells. And I don't yet have the ability to do that. That's a neat one. Very beautiful. Far away we have a type of Atrichum moss. That's this little starry one right here. And then those little things shooting off it, that's little spore capsules. Artemine pennsylvanica. It's a little tiny mustard with tiny white flowers that bloom in the spring. So pretty much from May through July I've seen it. And it's winter basil rosettes. And it's pretty much the only species that looks like this that grows in these muck swamps. All this other stuff, like you got skunk cabbage. I'm pretty sure this is a type of swamp aster. Yeah, it's definitely a swamp aster. Update, we're about 50 feet from my car, and I've been here for over half an hour, just looking at everything. Look at this is another new thing. So it's highly species rich, you know, whereas in like your open forest, you're probably gonna like forest like up there, you can move like 100 feet without seeing a different species. Whereas this, you know, I'm like every 5 feet, I'm like looking down, oh, what's that weird moss that I don't know how to ID? So we're gonna ID it on iNaturalist, not now. Ranunculus recurvatus, or the hooked buttercup. It's a common swamp buttercup with these little flowers, or not little flowers, little leaves. That's how you can tell it in the winter. It has these tiny, tiny little baby yellow flowers in the spring. Trilenta, or black birch, aka sweet birch, common in these forests. Invasive barberry land, the land of pokey bushes, thorn thicket. We have Philia hirtella. It's a little moss that grows on trees and logs. I've seen it in uplands, I've seen it in lowlands. It's a cool little moss. I've never done any videos about exploring areas like these because I don't like exploring areas like these because it's just constant tiny thorns and relative undiversity due to the invasion of invasive plants. But you can kind of get through it. It's not very fun, but I'll see if I find anything cool. Smilax rotundifolia, another thorn, part of the thorn thicket here. This one native. It's more common in uplands. We have a tree in the genus Fraxinus, or the ash trees, and this one is dying / declining due to the emerald ash borer. And you can see these round little boreholes where they come out / where woodpeckers eat the larvae. And they slowly girdle the tree. They eat all the living wood layer, which is only like a 1/4 inch. And they kill the tree, girdle it, and open it up for this invasive crap to move in. We have another common invasive, Lonicera japonica, another one brought in for its ornamental value. Little whitish yellow flowers in the summer. And it's this vine that takes over a lot of stuff. You can see it here and there amongst all this multiflora rose. This thorn thicket, pain in the ass. Recognizing in these areas, and pretty much in general, even in the summer, you want to wear pants. Because you gotta get through this crap somehow. And in short sleeves, and, in short sleeves, how am I gonna get through this? In short sleeves and shorts, ouch. See, it's just freaking poking me. Even without the armor I'm wearing, I'd still get ripped up. So even without that stuff, you'd get ripped up. It wouldn't be a fun day. And this is, oh look, it's garlic mustard. Another bad invasive. That's what those little green rosettes are. Rubus occidentalis, or the black raspberry, or the blue stem raspberry, with its beautiful purpley blue stems. To it, we got Rubus foniculaceus, or the wineberry. These actually are delicious. Both of them are pretty good, but this is the invasive one. Right next to it, we have multiflora rose. Ouch. Got more grapevines. And there's also Rubus allegensis, or the Allegheny blackberry. So it's a thorn thicket, a thorn land. Definitely good for birds, but not good for hiking. Lespedeza capitata, or the round-headed bush clover. It's a nice little native plant in the pea family, the Fabaceae. These are nice little white flowers with a little bit of purple in them. Very nice, and I love their bushiness. Like they're beautiful. About the Schizachyrium scoparium with a little blue stem here. It's a great indicator species for a decent meadow. And then way far away, that's an invasive miscanthus grass. Another invasive plant, this is Elaeagnus umbellata. Has silvery leaves and these weird tasting astringent red berries that are speckled with little white dots similar to these branches in the fall. It's another kind of invasive one from Eurasia. It's also called Russian olive or autumn olive. It's not a great plant. Kind of invasive, but in the spring it has these little white flowers, and when you have like a big infestation of them, it smells heavenly. So they're not all terrible. I mean, I despise every fact of them except for their weird tasting berries and their beautiful smelling flowers. Caria ovata, or the shagbark hickory, and it's absolutely being invaded by Celestris orbicalis, or the bittersweet. Look how big some of them are. And there's a bunch of them that are just like, this is just like probably the worst forest I've seen in the area. It's definitely quite shit tier. It's old pasture land. It's been invaded by ornamental shrubs and ornamental vines. But I'm sure if I when I get down the hill and the forest is more intact, I'm sure it'll be nicer. More or less what I call a first succession forest. For whatever reason, it's quite open. It was probably harvested at one point for wood. And this is just all the crap that's been taken over. I mean, you have a few nice things like the Chimaphila maculata and the Pyrola americana. And right there we have GM. So it's not all desecrated and destroyed. We have a little carex over there. So there is plants in here. It's just surrounded by pokey shit. Andersonia lysabara, or the spoon-leaved moss. It's an easy one to remember for whatever reason. Briar Andersonia lysabara. It's difficult to spell, but once you learn how to say it, it's like you kind of get addicted. Briar Andersonia lysabara, spoon-leaved moss. I love its color, super vibrant, relatively common in the richer areas. Polystichum arcrostochoides, or the Christmas fern. It's a common fern in shady, kind of rich lowlands. And it's evergreen. Don't forget ligustrum, or border privet, another horrible invasive, commonly used in hedges. Along this creek, in this open invasive land, invasive thorn thicket, super clear by the way, which is kind of uncommon. It shows that there is a lot of tannins or acidity in the water here, which is, I guess, interesting. That's why it's so invaded, because invaded forests tend to be the rich forests. Nice combo of Climacium, which is this dark green one, and Briar Andersonia, which is this light green one. Two common mosses of sort of rich lowlands, or creeks, like I am along now. Pseudomogedon attenuatus, or the tree skirt moss, common along the north-facing sides of trees. You can find it on all sides. This one's, for example, is on the north. And you can find it typically in lowlands. It likes the more mesic habitats. You don't really find it in the uplands too much, unless it's super moist. Carpinus carolinea, or the hophornbeam, or musclewood. And they call it musclewood because of the sinuous, the sinuous, muscly texture of the woods. And there's it's a little birch family plant, or tree, small shrubby tree. You typically find it in more mesic lowlands. We have Veronica officinalis, or the time-leaf speedwell, a little kind of white with little purple striped flowers. It's a non-native ground cover from Asia, but it doesn't seem to take over and breed. Alcladium imponens, one of the most common mosses in the region, also known as hyphnum moss. We have Rubus hispidus, or the swamp dewberry, little white flowers in June and May, and a tiny black berry that you can eat. It's a little ground cover in the rose family. We have some dicantheliums. These are kind of hard to ID to exact species. This is a type of rush right here, but without any flowering parts. You can't tell me what type of rush it is. There's more of that dicanthelium, little deer tongue grass. Kind of shelf polypore mushroom growing on this dead tree. probably an ash. Here's the top. Here's the bottom. It's going to be on iNaturalist, so that's where you're going to find out the species. Matilla repens, which is common in shady forest. There you are. A little coffee family plant with double flowers that turn into one berry, and there's a little GM. So there's a sycamore somewhere, and the genus name for sycamore is Plantanus occidentalis. It's a neat tree. It's sort of uncommon in this region of Connecticut and New England in general. But, I mean, it's common along big rivers. Beautiful Caryovita, the shagbark. This one's pretty big. And the forest seems, I mean, it's still very invaded, but it seems to be closing up, getting a little bit shadier. But that could just be this one small area. In summer, this is more or less just like this dense green maze of thorns and crap. And there is some plants that can grow underneath them. And because it's the rich forest, you can get a lot of rich dwelling species. Like, there's some really cool orchids that are really rare. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack, or more like a piece of hay and a needle stack. Because that's kind of what walking through this is. These are owies. If you're wearing thin pants, they prick you, they poke you, they jab you, and they stab you. So they're terrible. Maples out here, Acer saccharum, that means it's a rich forest. Because these do not like a very acidic forest, acidic dry forest. These need kind of moist conditions. Same thing with that shagbark hickory over there, and kind of the same thing with the ash tree next to it. Walking into a young hemlock grove, likely infested with the hemlock woolly Degraded. I can just tell, you know, it's kind of thinning out. It should be much darker green, much denser. Like, you shouldn't be able to see through it. So that's how you know it's filled with that invasive scale insect. Orchis alba, or the white oak, common in drier forest, but occasionally you can find it in wetter forest. Some Allium trichocum, a relatively rare species in the onion family. It's a little ramp. These are nice little edible plants, but you don't want to eat them because they're getting quite endangered because people poach the crap out of them. Cute little white flowers, and they're a nice little spring wildflower. Here on this north slope, and the woods, it's finally cleared up of all the invasive crap. I mean, there's still some here and there, but it's no longer as dense as it was out that way. You can see where it starts to form with that kind of haze. Oh, that's invasive barberry. But over here, look at it. Nice and open and clear. So this has always been a forest. Or this just hasn't been invaded yet. Or it won't be invaded due to the age of the forest. Vegas grandifolia, or the American beech. Nice plant, nice tree. Melinus virginiana, or the witch hazel. Yellow flowers in fall. And nice yellow foliage too. Boy, holy smokes. Holy smokes, look at this tree. Wowie, wowie. It's probably like 4 feet around. Big old red oak. There's several of them down here in this little valley. On the north slope. Little Monotropa uniflora, or the Indian pipe, a little ericaceous parasitic plant. Ericaceous meaning blueberry family. Oak here is well over 150 years old. And over here, this oak tree's probably been standing since this foundation was built. It's an old house, colonial. So look, it's Epiphagus virginiana, the beech drapes. cool. But yeah, it's an old foundation. Old homestead. Someone's old land. Old farmland. Probably abandoned for well over 200 years. Look at that. Beautiful oak trees. Lots of big ones. That's another big one over there. Another decent sized one. Probably at least 3.5, almost 4 feet around. Nice big tree. You know, I'm not a historian, so I can't age it for you, but there's lots of old metal scraps here. Old bricks. I'd say probably 1700s. And all this moss, that's Pseudomorgetton. Anyways, look, there's rock polypodium virginianum. I'd live here. I'd rebuild this and make it my nice little shack. Decent size too, you know, it's maybe a 2-bedroom. A little blooming skunk cabbage, Symplocarpus viatitis, in late January. Look at that, blooming already. These are called skunk cabbage, and they will bloom. Look, you already got a little guy on there, a little fruit fly or something. Yeah, these will bloom from pretty much now all the way through May. Look at that, that's cool. So here's your little fruit fly friend. You can see he's absolutely covered in the pollen. Sorry for the shaking, god damn. But there he is, covered in the pollen from the skunk cabbage. And I was just watching him clean himself off. Let's see if I can't get this stabilized. Friend flew away, but you get the point. We have Hupersia lucidula, or the shining fir moss, a little lycopod. Isn't that cool? Betula allegensis, or the yellow birch, common in shady areas like this one. We have a Peltigera lichen. I like these. These are awesome. In the genus Peltigera. Another cool one, Concephalum celebrosum, or snakewort. It's an awesome liverwort. Look how cool. Apparently they smell funny, so I'm going to smell it. Nice little wetland at the bottom of the valley. And unfortunately the highway right across it. I want to explore this in the summer. Got all sorts of anocleas. Ooh, almost got poked in the face. This is the anoclea, this little sensitive fern. I saw a weird thing, but I can't find it now. It was like some kind of little ball. Probably a buttonbush ball or something like that. There's beavers here. Look, we got a little beaver damage on this little Australia virginiana. Little hop hornbeam, another birch family plant or tree. Ludwigia alternifolia, called the bushy seed box. It's yellow flowers in the summer, and it's in the evening primrose family, the Onagraceae. How cool is that? Sphagnum moss, and also in this power line cut, they cut everything, all the shrubby shit, except for the damn invasive rose. So it's a little disappointing. Bazania trilobata, a cool liverwort. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. My favorite. Or at least one of them. This is a cool moss in the genus Physidens. Isn't that interesting? I've yet to find, this is my first Physidens find. I'm along that creek that's filled with invasive shit. But look at that, it's a Physidens. I don't know the exact species, but it's on iNaturalist. It's cute. It's the sycamore with its beautiful bark. Platanus occidentalis, what a cool tree. Look at that bark. One of the coolest.